This is crazy as we have multiple huge Leafs updates to go over today, and one of these updates changes the Leafs forever. We're going to break down exactly what that is, as well as discuss a crucial update that has dropped surrounding Matthew Knies and his future in Toronto that has fans fired up. A lot to go over today, folks, but before we get into it all, if you're a part of the percentage who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Leafs content, so make sure to hit that subscribe button, and thank you guys again for your continued support over here. Darius, a lot to go over today, and it's going to be a bittersweet day. We're going to be talking about a couple different things. We have a big Matthew Knies update. You're going to want to stay tuned until the end for that, but I want to start with this one here because some big news came out this morning, and of course, it is from Joe Bowen. Now, Darius, I'm going to let you take over here, and he basically wrote out a full poem. I guess he tweeted it as well. Shout out to him for that. But this is going to be his last year as an announcer for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'll let you take over here, but I'll let you read this out. It's an interesting day.
Well, buckle up, everyone. We knew this day was eventually going to come, and I'm glad that he's not just retiring and riding off into the sunset without saying anything. I'm glad that we're going to get to celebrate him next season. But like you said, he tweeted out this morning that next season will be his last season as the voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I spent a lot of this morning trying to figure out the words to describe him. We're going to go through a couple other tweets and what fans are saying as well. But, this guy is legendary. Like, you think of certain sounds that are synonymous with certain things, like, the sound that skates make on the ice and all of that with hockey. Joe Bowen is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Like, when you hear his voice, you think of the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's nobody else that comes close. Maybe Bob Cole, but not to the same degree over the same amount of years, right? Joe Bowen's been doing this for 45 years at this point for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and so many good moments and so many calls that I can't even remember most of them off the top of my head right now. But through the years, bless you boys and all of those, so many good ones. And the fact that he hasn't been on TV is ridiculous to me. Absolutely ridiculous. Every other Canadian team has a regional broadcast and regional broadcast team besides the Toronto Maple Leafs. I understand that they want them, broadcasted nationally, but he is not on TV and he hasn't been for a while. It's ridiculous. I hope that they give him at least one game with Jim Ralph on the national broadcast this coming season. It could be wishful thinking, but I hope that, there is, but a heartfelt message as well. And obviously we get to celebrate him next season. Sam Rosen of the New York Rangers just retired this past season as well. He announced it last off season. And every single arena that the team went to, they were, giving him a nice send off and, celebrating his career. So we get to do that this year, which is really nice for Joe Bowen. But I think we all knew this day was eventually going to come, but it is still a very sad day.
Yeah, and obviously a legend, like you mentioned. You see here, feel free to pause and read it all the way through. But it basically just confirms after 44 years of being the voice of your Toronto Maple Leafs, he has decided that this will be his last year. And it is good that, the bright side is he has a year now to go out where everyone knows that he's going to be, it's going to be over after this year. And he's going out, of course, his terms. He's going to enjoy the final year. And of course, he gives you a thanks, or gives all of us a thanks to Leafs Nation, everybody, of course, the players and things like that. And shout out to the poem he made, a pretty good one here. Feel free to pause and read it here. Very, very solid overall. And there are some people who spoke out, both radio, outlets and things like that. Incomparable, legendary. Joe Bowen's voice has perfectly expressed the passion that lives within every Leafs fan. We at TSN 1050 have been privileged to call him a teammate, and we offer our sincerest congratulations on a singular career. We look forward to one more year of greatness. And it's symbolic a little bit because, next year for the Leafs, this is going to be an off season with the biggest changes we've ever seen since the Core Four started. And it's starting with, one of the legendary announcers and Joe Bowen now being, I guess this is his last year as well. So there's been a lot of talks about hopefully the Leafs can go out and make some big splashes this offseason and make a push for the cup in his final year. 44 years of being the voice of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he called it his dream job. And hopefully the Leafs can put up a good season for him. But this is almost a sign of things to come regarding change, and there's going to be a lot of change with the actual team as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And one other thing I wanted to mention is there's so little of these guys left in the league, like these synonymous voices or sounds with a certain team. So we really have to celebrate this. And it's a heartbreaking day. It really is, because Joe Bowen, you never want it to end, and it is coming to an end. So it was nice to see everybody come out this morning and just, sharing moments. And I, do want to take this time to say, if you made it this far into the video, let us know in the comments your favorite Joe Bowen moment or call as well in the comments, because I'm sure there's a lot of them. A lot of different people have different favorite moments. And the crazy thing about Joe Bowen is that he spans over generations, right? So whether you were watching the Leafs in the 80s and the 90s, the early 2000s, which I'm sorry if you were because that was tough to get through, and most recently, it spans different generations. So everybody has different favorite moments, but one thing is the constant, and that is Joe Bowen was calling them. So it's going to be, heartbreaking at the end of the year when he does retire. But like you mentioned, when he does, at least we have a full season to celebrate him and go through all of that. And I'm sure, the Leafs are going to do something pretty spectacular for him as well. But like you mentioned, the team is going to be different next year. And he mentioned, in the past, wanting the team to look different. He was one of the people that came out and said after 2022 and 2021, it's not good enough. And they were still riding the same team for the last couple of years. They finally have an opportunity to change this offseason, and he's going to have the opportunity to call that in his last season. So hopefully they are on their way to a Stanley Cup, and he can call that, as his last game. That would be storybook stuff, but we'll see how the season plays out.
Yeah, you also have Steve Simmons coming out, giving some giving some praise there, and all the way around fans across, not just Leafs Nation, but also of course the NHL as well. Everybody around is happy that they got to hear him for 44 years or as many years as they did. And yeah, bittersweet day. Let us know down below what your thoughts are, and let us know your favorite memory from regarding you and Joe Bowen. But let's dive into some other updates now. And there's some big news that has actually come out surrounding Matthew Knies. We've obviously been talking about John Tavares a lot here on the channel. James Myrtle came out and said that the Maple Leafs remain confident they'll sign Matthew Knies to a reasonable second contract this summer with no offer sheet drama expected. But this was also followed up by a new report from Darren Dreger saying that he expects Knies' contract extension to be one of the first things addressed by Brad Treliving this off season. And this is getting more and more real now. I think it's a pretty good sign. We can almost, write it in. John Tavares getting a little bit scarier day by day, but for Matthew Knies, it has all been inevitable at this point. There's been multiple reports confirming it here that not only are they going to sign him and there won't be any offer sheet drama, but I would assume this is going to get done in the next week or two, because there was also, I believe it was James Myrtle or maybe it was Jonas Siegel who said in the next week or two, they're going to try to get both done between Tavares and Knies. Tavares has been a bit of a fork in the road, but for Matthew Knies, I would expect this deal to get done maybe as early as next week.
Yeah, and I think that they have to get it done in pretty short order. This should be one of the first orders of business. I've been pretty vocal about Mitch Marner being the first order of business, find out what's happening there. And I think they already have their answer at this point. So move forward to Matthew Knies. The Dreger, report is interesting because he expects him to be the first order of business, but the Leafs haven't played for a while already. Like the offseason has been happening and they've been able to work on a lot of this stuff, especially because they have an exclusive window between the end of their season and July 1st to figure it out, because they have these players already on the team. So I thought that was very interesting. Like, why haven't you figured it out yet if you are going to figure it out? But I think that they're clearly negotiating, especially with John Tavares as well, trying to figure out what that looks like. And I feel like they're kind of going to go hand in hand, excuse me, because they have to figure out what Knies' contract looks like. Same with Tavares, to then figure out what we're going to do with the rest of the team. How much salary cap are we going to have left over? Are we even re-signing John Tavares? What does the team look like without him, right? Are we better off without him? I don't know if that's the case, but there's still a lot of moving parts, but they got to get this done, I think, by next week, because if you let this linger too long, then you're approaching offer sheet territory, and you can't tell me another team around the league isn't going to at least try on Matthew Knies. Now, obviously, he has to sign the contract, and he said he wants to stay at Toronto Maple Leaf, but you never know. A lot of these things, if it lingers on, feelings change. You don't want to let it get to that point. So they need to get this done, I think, next week. So then they have a clear vision of what the team looks like heading into the draft and free agency.
Yeah, let us know down below what your thoughts are on all these things. Multiple updates. Keep you up to date with all the latest. Thank you guys for watching. See you later.